the come up. It's the come up. Hello, 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 people of the world and the Company Universe. It's me, Nick, and this is the Come Up. I am so excited to be chatting today with my guest. She is a coach and a business and personal coach. She does a little bit of everything, and now she also is an author of a book. It's fiction, it's nonfiction, it's self-help, it's mystery. This is Opa Hysea Wise. Hello, how are you?
Oh, Nick, I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I was saying before we got on that I just think you're really cool, and that's just based off of like pictures and reading about you. So I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm excited to be here. I truly am. Yeah,
um,
I said before your work, I was stalking you on Twitter, and I was like, oh, your voice. Oh, your voice is all good feels.
well, listen, that's the hope. We got to bring those good feels. It was a long year. It's officially 2021. Here we are. We
I
did the
know.
thing.
Here we are. Yeah.
Um, 2020 it was a rough year for a lot of reasons, but it was a growing year for me, a growing and a learning year. And you released your book in 2020.
Yeah.
So what was 2020 like for you?
Uh, uh, that's such a great question. It was for me the great uncovering in so many areas, both personally, professionally, but around the United States, right? Personally, it uncovered areas in my life where I had not been taking care of myself, where I was allowing my health to just kind of take a downward spiral. Um, but part of that was I needed to get to this place where I learned to truly, for the first time, lean into and dwell in this space of uncertainty, right? I mean, we had this pandemic that just locked us all into our rooms and said, "Don't come out."
Yeah.
And for me, who, like a lot of people of color, have underlying health issues.
Mhm. Asthma, yeah.
Yes, heart issues, yeah.
Yes.
So, and then having to work with my mom, who I would not let out of her home. So I did all of her shopping, did a whole bunch of things for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit scary. So leaning into the idea of uncertainty, to be able to dwell there and to be terrified at the same time, and be able to feel that terror rather than trying to figure out ways to cope, feel it instead, which was really good, and it offered some insights into my own psyche. Um, One of the things that I recognize for 2020 is that it was an opportunity to uncover racism in the United States.
Yeah.
And it would not have happened, I don't think, had we not been locked in our rooms where everybody was locked inside. I don't know about you, but I remember hearing when our brothers and sisters were killed left and right, there was always the, yeah, but what did they do?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, even today is January 5th, 2021, and we just heard of Jacob Blake. No indictment for that officer that shot this man 7 times in the back. And
Mhm.
and the reason that the district attorney gave is that, a jury couldn't prove without a reasonable doubt that this officer wasn't fearing for his life.
You know, I'm probably going to get into a lot of trouble when I say this.
This is the right show
I
for that, Opa. We get in trouble here.
I know. So I'm going to say it. I know a lot of officers, um, a lot of really upstanding officers, many of them friends of mine. And one of the things that they scratch their nails on chalkboard is when they hear, I was fearing for my life. I heard from one of my dear friends, now why are you wearing the uniform?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? You are our heroes. You are the ones that are running into danger every day that you put on that uniform, put on that badge. So the idea, I think we really have to really begin to take a hard look at that excuse. I feared for my life.
Hmm.
So did the black man running away.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're right, you know, the child who sees a squad car go by and immediately stands behind his parents' car.
I saw, I just moved back to Omaha from Chicago, and I was walking across the street, and a police car came down the street, and it was me, a black woman, and her son. And I felt myself have a visceral reaction to seeing the car. And I watched this little boy stop in his tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom looked at him and said, "What are they going to do? Come on." And I was like, oh, he knows. Like, he couldn't have been more than 6.
I know.
I was like, this is hard. Like, I felt some kind of way that I reacted. I was like, oh, Nick, come on. But then to see this baby, like, that already knows.
They all,
This,
yeah. So I think this year was an opportunity where the United States and all across the world had to begin to truly deal with racism. I think we've moved the needle, but not enough.
yeah. Yeah.
We've moved the needle. So yeah, it's been a year. And as I tell everyone, just sit in your feelings, feel what you need to feel. Don't be covering it up with alcohol, drugs, sex, food, whatever. Not
Yeah.
gonna, the feelings are gonna be there the next day. So yeah.
They ain't going nowhere.
Ain't gonna go nowhere. You might as well
Uh,
deal with it right now.
you know, this kind of going off of that, a feeling that you talk about in your work and just that kind of inspired you to write this book is otherness, this feeling of feeling
Yeah.
outside of the world that you live in.
Mhm.
Can you speak a little bit more about that? Like, what about your upbringing felt other, or your life in general
Hey,
felt other?
you know, I'm old enough to be your mama. So I grew up. I grew up in that uh, United States where we were where Martin Luther King was assassinated, right?
Mhm.
I remember watching on television when Martin Luther King was assassinated and thought, well, this isn't right. My parents, unfortunately, did not raise me to look at color.
Mm.
That, and my mom has to this day said, I am so sorry. I was like, yes, you should be. Because I didn't recognize that people didn't like me because of my color.
Mm.
So when I would go to school and my family moved from place to place, my father was in the military. So when we moved from place to place to place and I moved to a new school, I watched how white children were welcomed, but I was off in the corner. It
Yeah.
didn't help that I am mixed race, so I wasn't black enough for black students who were in school,
Mhm.
and I was too brown for white kids, right? So I have this sense that that I was an other,
Mhm.
that I didn't belong to anyone, right? As an adult, I can tell you that the two are not the same, right? You can feel like an other, that you are different, but that doesn't mean you don't belong,
Mm.
you know? And I always tell people that if you are breathing today, you belong to the fabric of humanity. You are an important thread and you need to stitch yourself completely and know that you belong to all of us and to everything. But as the kid, I didn't know that. So as an adult, I found myself gravitating toward diversity education. You know, I worked my first jobs for the first 25 years was in government agencies, specifically the court system. And when the Chief Justice of California court system instituted diversity education for not our clients, but for us as employees, I jumped at it. Working in training and development, I just jumped at it and found myself adding my voice to what it feels like to be out in the margins of society, even though I was contributing every single day. I took that into my work as a coach. I left the government agency, went to work for corporate for a while, and then I realized I was not living my purpose and decided to do what it took to reach out and fulfill that purpose. Since I live from this place of compassion, so it made sense to get into coaching. And so I do all kinds of coaching, whether my mantra is that we can work together to shift you in almost any area of your life that you're willing to have the imagination to shift. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So on your website, one of your specialties is human potential coaching.
Yeah, it's transformational.
I love that phrase. So what, if you were to define that to someone, like what is human potential coaching?
We all have potential. I come from this place where we come to this earth with a certain set of skill sets, something that we want to accomplish. But what happens from the moment we're born? What do we get? Don't do this, don't do that. You can't do this, you can't do that. When you're asked what do you want to be, and you say, I want to be an astronaut. You can't be an astronaut. No. On and on and on and on and on. So that by the time that child has grown into adolescent, into young person, and you say, hey, what do you want to do with your life? Is it any wonder they don't know? Right? It's been buried. So because I know that within each of us, there is a potential, there is a spark, there is a light that was buried, my job to help that person uncover that and to begin to shine, whether it's singing, whether it's making music, whether it's writing a novel, whatever that is within you. It's time to uncover that and deal with all of the limiting beliefs that you have around why you can't do a thing.
You know, I say this, it's interesting. I say something so similar when I'm teaching my acting classes. People forget how to play. People forget that play is something that exists. And that's something that, like, some of the best actors I've seen in my life are 3 years old.
Right.
Because they understand how to play, because all they're doing is living.
Yes. And it's just rubbed out of us. Why? I still don't understand why. It's the question that I may not understand until I die. But that's okay. I'll find out then. But I do know that we all have an innate ability to make the contribution that we want to in life, whatever that looks like for you. And so whatever your potential is, whatever you have and that you want to grow, that's where I come in. And I don't make the choices for you. I just journey along with you, ask you the necessary questions, send you home with a lot of homework, and get you to a place where you recognize that you can do the thing that you've always wanted to do.
Ah,
Yeah.
love that. So, Opa, have you always wanted to write a book?
I did.
Yeah.
When I was, and I had a limiting belief around that. Around the age of 12, I decided something in my head was just, I had some beautiful story in my head. I remember this, and I went to sit in my living room by myself with my little notebook, and I'm writing away. I'd erase. Let's try that again, because that was not what was in my head. And I'd write, and it just wasn't coming forth. And so after probably a couple of hours, out of sheer frustration, I ripped up that piece of paper and I told myself, I can't write.
Wow.
Even though I loved reading. I have more books. I have books here and in my bedroom, at my parents' house, books everywhere. But I just thought I couldn't write. But the universe, being the universe, said, well, hate to tell you, but you can.
Yeah.
And it was actually through my work with Jack Canfield, one of the transformational coaches in this country, especially around success. I took a year-long training program with him. It was during that process of uncovering some limiting beliefs that I went, oh, so maybe I can write. And oh, wouldn't it be kind of cool to incorporate, instead of writing another nonfiction piece of work,
Mm-hmm.
I create a story, an implausible story, right? One where the most horrific thing happens to a human, and this human has to grow through it.
Mm.
And I can teach some of the principles that I've learned, because it occurred to me that not a whole lot of people know what I know.
Mm.
And I'm always surprised when I, especially when I'm dealing with new clients, I'm like, really, you don't know this? But they don't, so yeah.
Wow. I love that. And I love that it's like, use the strength of the strength that you find. And you're like, oh, I'm great at this. I'm great at helping people uncover their strength. Wait, then why can't I uncover my own strength? And then marrying that passion with the other and finding
Right.
that path. Like, that's awesome. So No Place to Hide is the name of your book. Came
No
out
place.
at the end of the year, end of 2020.
Yeah.
What was it like to finally have that in the world? What did it feel like to put that out to the people and be like, this is it, I did the thing?
Terror. Being honest, terrified. It was like, oh my goodness, for a year, that baby and I and the editor, we had this wonderful little family. Life was good. And then all of a sudden, the editor says, well, it's ready for publication. Let me send it off to the publisher. And I'm,
Instant. What? Who said?
Wait.
Did we agree on that? I don't know if we agreed on that.
I don't think. Are you sure that we can't do one more pass? And yeah, as an artist, our work is never complete.
Yeah.
We try to make it so, but we're always wanting to fine tune it. And I'm a brand new author. I am not. I mean, my degree was not in literature.
Mm.
Not at all. So the idea of this novice putting a book out there, but I believe I knew based on a secret that my protagonist, Smith, has covered up, that book was going to help at least one person.
Mm.
There was one person that needed to read this book. And it's that thing that just kept me writing. And my editor was not uncommon for her to say, "Can we have an offline conversation? I have questions about this area." I was like, "Okay, fine." So I know that it's had an impact. I've had people tell me, they're like, "Oh, wow, okay. I'm going to have to read this again." Even my mother had to reread it. She read it twice and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is what you've been doing for a year." Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you say about one person needing it. Because, and honestly, that person could be you. Like, in the like, the theater industry was shut down. Everything went away. I ended up starting this talk show, which was amazing. I love it so much. And it fulfills me. And I honestly, like, I have a producer, and she was like, what do we do? How do we get more traction? I was like, honestly, if the people that watch, and it's not for, I'm not putting this out to be like, oh, look at me. Like, I'm having important conversations with really cool people and having a nuanced discussion about the things that we talk about every day, which is so thrilling and exciting to me, and really honing that lens in on artists, and specifically artists of color, and just creating that space that we always talk about creating, but like,
exactly,
you have to create it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I find so wonderful is that it feels almost like we rose up all at the same time, where we decided we are going to take up space, right? Even though we had actually been working toward this time period, right? And I just think it's time for us to all shine. Don't be terrified. So whoever's watching this, do not be terrified. Or if you are terrified, go ahead, be terrified. Feel your feelings, but this is the thing, do it anyway.
Are you a Cancer? I say feel your feelings all the time.
I'm a Leo.
You're a Leo? Listen, then Oprah really wants you to feel those feelings, okay? Like, that's coming from a Leo. You need to feel them hard.
Hard.
So if you have to give like a little like bite-sized synopsis of No Place to Hide to like entice the people, what would you say?
I would say that No Place to Hide is about a woman who, a queer mixed race woman who, in the midst of trying to change the trajectory of her life, is challenged with a set of circumstances that threaten her life. And through it, you as the reader journey with her and grow right alongside of her. It's a little bit of mystery, as you said. It's a little bit of self-help. It's a little bit of spirit, right? Yeah.
I love that. That in this moment, art has to change in so many ways. And so I love this idea of like taking this book and influencing it with your self-help, and like it's a mystery, but there's some nonfiction because it's clearly connected to the otherness that you felt in this queer Black woman. So it's coming specifically from your, I love it. Love it. Opa, so you're great.
You get to actually read her thoughts, right? Which is unusual because we all walk around all stoic, like we got it together. So did Smith, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna be all up in her thought process. I get to read it.
Love that. I love it. Opa, if you had parting words, or like I stopped doing resolutions in 2012. Like everyone said they weren't doing it this year, but I got a Facebook reminder that was like that I said in 2012 that I stopped doing resolutions, and I was like, wow, I'm so ahead of the times. It's amazing. So, but if you had an intention or a something to give the people into 2021, what's that thing for you?
I would say I would sprinkle you all with dreams,
Mm,
your own dreams. And I would ask you all to set an intention of returning to that thing that lights your heart on fire, and do it.
wow. Opa Hysea Wise, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
No Place to Hide is available wherever you find books. So check it out. Get you a digital copy, get you a physical copy. Support this work. Support this woman. Thank you, Opa. It's
I do
a
appreciate
pleasure to speak to you today.
It's a pleasure to speak with you as well, Nick. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.